Hi, welcome to the deeper dive version of 26 Minutes with. We've been talking with Lewis Stockley about his, hitting rock bottom with addiction. And I want to just finish the dark night of the soul and then move in
hmm
making hard choices and mind over matter
hmm
idea. So your dark night of the soul kind of happened twice a little bit, eh? Once with
Yep.
letting go of the gaming addiction, and the
hmm
other choosing family over work.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
what you know, for those who kind of like they're worried about going through something like this sort of like I'm going to call it a come to Jesus moment where you
Yep.
gotta
Yep.
face, you gotta like the only person that you have to change. It's not your wife.
Yep.
It's not Joe Biden or whoever you want to. It's you. You got
Yep.
face to face with you. How do you? What words of wisdom would you give to somebody going through one, and for them not to fear it and to
hmm
actually embrace the experience, even though it's really kind of shitty. Pardon my language.
Yes. Yep. No problem. I'm military. I don't mind cussing at all. But
It just
um,
felt right. I don't know what other word I could have used other
it
words.
is that
Felt
yeah,
right.
that is the best way to
Yeah.
describe it. The thing about it is, and the biggest realization I've had about that is we always fight it. We always prolong it, prolong the pain, prolong the suffering, because we avoid leaning in on ourselves and taking responsibility for where we're at in life. Because if I had just taken responsibility for my issue with the video games ahead of time and made the really gut wrenching tough decision to go tell my wife when I'm feeling guilty about it and shame about it, and I'm hiding this money, then that probably could have stopped it right there, because she would have said, "Thank you for telling me." She would have been pissed, of course, but she would have respected the honesty, and we could have put a plan together to help me be successful. But life, whatever you believe in, the universe, God, they're going to keep giving you clues. But if you don't listen, they're eventually going to just drop you, drop you off that cliff and force you to face it, which is what happened. So the best option for you is not to prolong the pain and suffering. Just sit down, look within yourself, and start facing it now. Ask for support if that's what you're avoiding doing. It's always the thing that we're avoiding is what we need to lean into in
Right.
order to get out of that. And that's what I figured out. If you're in that situation right now, there is something that you're avoiding doing that's going to be really tough, maybe a tough conversation you're avoiding. You need to get within yourself whatever courage you can muster up and just go do it. Just go do that one thing, because it'll be easier that way. In football, they teach you that if you sit there and pause and wait, when you're about to get into this situation where you're tackled or you're tackling somebody else, you're going to get hurt even more. So, your best thing to do is to keep momentum and move forward. Don't wait for anything to happen. Take matters into your own hands and go on the offense with it. And that way you will actually get hurt less. That's the same thing that applies here. You just lean into it.
Yeah. What you resist persists, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, Looking back, would you trade it in? Looking back now on your, because you also had an issue, around work and your son who
Mm-hmm.
care. Would you trade that in? Looking back.
Well, well, what happened is my work just wouldn't support the idea that my son was in a very troubled place where he was looking at maybe even trying to take his own life. They knew that I would need to take a lot of time away to do that, and they
Mhm.
chose not to support me on it. And then years later, for the same issue, they fired me for it unexpectedly. And I wouldn't change it for anything, because it taught me some very valuable lessons. Number one, as every entrepreneur inherently should know, or if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, you should know that one of the biggest driving reasons behind that is you are replaceable if you work for any other employer. No matter how much you devote to that other job or that industry that you're working in and you feel like you're contributing, at the end of the day, if they can find someone else that can do the job better, you're going to be replaced. And it doesn't matter if you felt like it was a family, like I felt like that place was a family environment for me and everything like that. At the end of the day, you're working for someone else's dream. So that told me I need to work for my own dream. Even if I go get another job like I did to make ends meet during that time, work towards your own dream. Put more energy into that than you do into someone else's thing. And then the other thing that I wouldn't change for the world is I went through quite a lot of growth in that time as well. One of the biggest key moments for me where I had kind of an awakening was I was watching this Spider-Man movie, which is the craziest thing ever. We talked about how these different shows have those messages. And
Yes.
it was the one where his whole life blew up. Like at the end of it, nobody could even remember who he was. The girl that he liked and wanted to marry couldn't remember him anymore. And he's faced with that choice of being a hero still, putting on the suit every day and showing up and still helping people with no life or anything looking forward towards them. And right in that moment, as I saw that, and they hit him with that with great power comes great responsibility line,
Hmm.
I said, oh my God. I was in tears and I said, I've been squandering my gift. I have this amazing gift to just connect with people emotionally. And instead of using it to help people, I've been just trying to just work this job and make money and things like that. When whoever you believe in, again, gave me this gift because it has a purpose behind it to help other people. So in tears, I'm like, I got to do something different. And so I'm looking out the window and I have this property that's not very big, but we have nice woods out in the back with a path that's cut out by the deer and stuff like that.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
looking out the window and I feel this desire to just go out there and see what's out there. Nice warm day in the spring and all that. So I get my mud clompers on. I'm in shorts. I go out there and I just start walking through the woods. And this peace just hit me, and it just woke me up. And I just started down the path of finding more books, doubled down on my business, started helping more people that I could find every day, and just increased the idea of figuring out who I was. And I think back, like, if I had not been fired from that job, would I still have been able to experience that kind of growth that quickly? Because I kept looking back every week, week after week, like, wow, I'm completely different from where I was last week. I was just constantly going through transformations as I became the person I needed to be to make that purpose happen.
Yeah. Last question on what you've been through. Where does faith and spirituality come into play? And and also, yeah, in your faith and in your spirituality, your belief in God,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you want to call it. How does that how did that help you get up from a dark night of the soul?
So for me, my I grew up in the church. I grew up Baptist,
Hmm.
and every Sunday you're going to church. And then when I was old enough to make my own choice, I decided not to go anymore. And I realized on that moment that I talked about that for the longest while I actually kind of blamed God or blamed the universe for all of those problems, right? Because you need someone to blame, if you're not going to change things. And all those excuses just failed me in that moment because I realized all the different moments where the opposite was happening, where I was being supported, I was being helped, despite the fact that I wasn't honoring that faith that I had. So where I went with it is I realized that I believe there's a higher power. I believe there is God, and I just don't believe in following a specific religion to talk to him. So I pray and meditate every day and speak to him in my own way and feel that faith and that spirit and trust him to help me whenever I need to. But the biggest thing I had to consciously work on every day is saying, I just trust. that everything here is happening for a reason. There aren't any accidents, which I truly believe there are really no accidents happening. It's all for a specific purpose. And then just be able to walk that way with confidence. It leads me to be able to have more energy. And the faith idea is that you have faith things are going to work out the way they're going to work out. And so when you're taking action, now you're not afraid anymore.
Yeah.
You're not afraid while you're moving forward.
Yeah. Fear is not a friend, and it's kind of it's like guilt, it's a bit of a useless emotion.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just to, wrap our discussion off, I want to talk to you about, making hard choices. And sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
you've made some hard choices, you have to face your wife. You called her in the middle of the night and saying, I'm going to do better. Almost, I see your wife as like your mom,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
that female, because I have a
Same
pattern,
energy.
like it's a pattern that we create. And we don't
Mm-hmm.
do it like, well, I'm going to be like this with women or
Yep.
with men or whoever. It could be your work, or your boss, but it's a pattern we create
Exactly.
when we're young, and it keeps on keeping on until,
Exactly.
wait a minute, this pattern kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make some hard choices, Lewis, and in your life's journey, who helped you through these choices? And knowing what you know now, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
would like you said that I wouldn't have done anything different just for the lesson. But who helped you through these choices?
Well, the biggest rock in my life that's always been my reason for getting through one challenge to the next has been my wife.
Mm,
She is German slash Serbian and has no filter. So she will always, I can always, which is what I asked for when, we found each other, is I wanted somebody that was going to be for me 100%. And as we are heart-centered people, the people we hang around, they like to kind of sugarcoat stuff, and they don't kind of like to tell you exactly what they're thinking or what's going on. And that's what I would experience, is just kind of a lot of fakeness around me. And she would always keep it real and share with me what it looks like, to my dismay, all the time. And that's why she's my number one person, because I can ask her that stuff and she'll tell me honestly what she sees, whether I want to hear it or not. And I have learned that when it triggers me, it's because it really hits something that I have to look at. So that's the working through the hard decisions is really, really tough, because I'm tasked with always finding the solution and figuring it out. But one of the things that helps you find a solution is being able to point out the problem. And
yeah,
so she's able to do that accurately for me, point out my problem, whether I'm being too extreme on this thing or this thing, and I need to dial it back. She will tell me, and not as nice as sugarcoated as that, but she'll tell me straight up what's going on. And that's always helped me to get there. Like when I had to face having a tough conversation with my mother, that was brought on because I needed to support my wife and kids. And she told me, look, the situation is not good. You have to go talk to her. You have to figure this out.
yeah,
And so her, and then I had another mentor of mine. His name is Zach Dixon, and he helps coaches and things like that. But from the beginning, he always believed in me. Every time I found him on some Facebook video or whatnot, because I was looking on how to figure out how the business thing, how to get my business off the ground and get going. And something about his energy just said, I got to talk to this guy. I got to have a conversation with him. So I've known him for 3 or 4 years now. And no matter what, he's always been able to give me advice, always been able to just support me as much as he can, bringing me into his different programs or events and stuff. And every time I went to one, it was the information I needed to hear at that time. So it's weird because it's like he knew, but he never said it straight out. He would just lay it out in front of me, and it's up to me to move forward on it or not. And so it's just the people like that. I had to really find the belief in myself to keep moving forward on things and not quit on this. because it wasn't making much money. It's still not paying the bills or anything, but I had to realize that there's a huge purpose behind it, and the money doesn't matter because it's going to show up when it's time.
Yeah, I hear you. That's kind of where I'm at too.
Yeah.
How did all this change? The dark night of the soul, the self-exploration, the making hard choices, turning your life around. How has it impacted your marriage and also your relationship with your kids? Because I know
Um.
you talked offline, you're really involved with your son who plays football
Yep.
and yeah, and then you have, a daughter and everything. How did it impact that?
It made me more invested in being vulnerable with them because I thought I had to be the shield slash emotional statue so that they wouldn't worry. But the first real time I had to learn that it needs to be different was with the video game addiction, because that was the first time I had to literally sit down with my family after me and my wife talked about it, of course, and tell the kids, look, I got a real problem here with video games. I am an addict. So from this point forward, I want to be able to stay the person I am. So I'm not going to play video games with you guys when you invite me to. And I would ask that you don't invite me to it. We just had to be open and honest. And from there, that's how I usually do things now. They're willing to be more open and share their struggles with me. And we have real conversations all the time. They don't just tell me what they think I want to hear. Sometimes you got to dig a little deeper, but for the most part, I guess the biggest thing is I'm more present. I'm way more present than I used to be.
Yeah, I think that's so important too. I've thought about this often lately, because I have a bit of I had a bit of an addiction in the
Hmm.
pandemic when it first started.
Yeah.
I was watching a lot of YouTube video
Yep.
content
Hmm.
about what the hell's going on, right? and
Hmm.
and I got a bit like addicted to it, but
Yep.
and I'm not as much now. Matter of fact, I actually want to stop watching 90% of it.
Yeah.
What I found, Lewis, is I was searching for something outside of myself,
Yep.
and the truth is in here.
Hmm.
And I was like hoping, like, well, maybe we'll get some good news, or it'll be
Yep.
better, or whatever.
Hmm.
It's like, no, it's not. I'll sometimes watch it. I don't get Fox News up here in
Hmm.
Canada, in
Yep.
Toronto, but I watched Fox News on YouTube, and it's
Yep.
like now I find, oh my God, I'm just watching a train wreck, and it's gossip.
Yep.
All it is it's gossip. Like
Hmm.
our prime minister just announced a separation from
Yep.
his wife just the other day, and people are already posting on Facebook
Having opinions. Yep.
all their opinions and what they think, and on YouTube. And I'm thinking I could invest in that, but I'm going to
Hmm.
invest in me. And when I
Exactly.
invest in me, I can help other people. So
Hmm.
what's your take on that? Like, is that
So,
yeah.
so my take was, yeah, like for me with the video games, I was searching for achievement, easy one achievement. And that took a lot of thought inward to figure out, because I was like, I my big goal for age 26 was to get above six figures.
And
I
you
hit that I hit that at age 25.
wow.
But you run into that typical problem. Well, what's next? That small question that's been waiting for you, loaded up in the holster, gets fired at you. What's next? And I had no answer for it. I had zero answer for it. So I went through this long space of time, all the way up to age 30, wondering what's next. What's next? And I didn't have an answer. I'd get stressed. I would shut myself off from everybody with the anxiety I had and play video games and just pour it into that. And then the video games got more of a hook into me because I played them since childhood, but it hooked in because it gave me that feeling that I achieved something every time, a little reward flash, or you get the little upgrade, or you do this, or you do that. Every time, just little dumps of dopamine making me feel amazing. And I was just searching for that. So what I realized in retrospect was every time I started feeling stronger in the workouts, or I found something in a self-help book that I applied successfully and I felt good about it, or I helped somebody else with it, I was achieving actual achievements, making real progress there that I could feel. And that kind of started to pull me away from it. But we ultimately are searching for a feeling, is what I learned.
Yes.
And if we can easily get that feeling that we're kind of addicted to, because it's not the games I was addicted to, it's how they made me feel. I was addicted to it. If I could find a way to get that feeling easily with low cost, I'm going to do that on autopilot all day long. So I had to find another way to bring those same feelings to myself before I could break that loop that I was stuck in.
Yeah. Tony Robbins says, we do things to avoid pain or get pleasure. Yeah.
Yep.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we have to look like head on, like what's that pain? What's it telling us? What needs to shift? And just do it. Take that first step, as you alluded to in our 26
Yep.
minutes with segment.
Yep.
You're a big oh, again, you're a big believer of mind over matter, and
Mm-hmm.
it shapes your coaching and your work. How has that helped you, and how is it wise to share that
Mm-hmm.
concept of mind over matter when you're coaching someone else to live their dream?
So the to allude to that, what I started out doing was fitness coaching, of course. After I hit the rock bottom and I got myself in shape, I thought, okay, I'll teach people fitness. Then I went into health and nutrition because I started shifting into health and nutrition. But every single step of the way, I realized that those things didn't really give me much passion. And I found this little exercise online doing what we usually do. We're just searching for answers, right? And it said, and it got my attention because it said, figure out what your superpower is. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's do that. Let's figure out that. And one of the things that really changed everything moving forward for me was it says in there, find 10 of the closest people you can, friends, family, whoever, and ask them, if I had a superpower, what do you think it would be? 80% of the people that I asked 25 people, they all said the same exact thing. Mind over matter. They said, for some reason, whenever in one way or another, they said it, the most popular answer was, whenever you seem to think of something that you want to do, we turn around and it's like you did it or it happened. And so I started really digging into that. And I realized, yeah, that's usually how it lines up for me, like with the military. I knew before I even signed up, I was going to be in and I was going to have the exact job I wanted, which was in IT, which they were fighting to not put people in because it was very popular at the time. And I knew that's what I was going to sign up for. So there was even a moment where I believed in that so much in my mind that the recruiter is trying to talk me into being a weatherman. And something just told me consciously, get up and start walking out. So, like a salesman ending the deal, I get up, start walking through the double doors. He comes running out with a piece of paper saying, "Oh, a spot opened up. You can have that job if you
Ah,
want." And so that type of example has happened numerous times throughout my life where I think of stuff and it happens. I'll give you one quick example, so I know
yeah,
we're running out of time, but
yeah,
on the track team in high school, the coaches will tell you, like, when you're doing an official meet, which my event was the 800, which is 2 laps around the track, 800 meters. And what they tell you on that is pace yourself, because it's kind of like a distance run, but it's not. But they tell you pace yourself. And then when you get to that last little stretch, you can burst and take off and go crazy. But for me, my mind was already like, I'm already in first place, right? So I hit the line and I went 100% from the beginning till I couldn't anymore. And so I would pass everybody on the first lap, and I'm like, yes, I got this. And then by the second lap, your legs are jelly, your lungs are on fire, and everybody's walking, basically running by me laughing. but the coach is yelling at me and everything. But every meet, I still kept doing that same exact thing. Against all of their advice, I kept doing that. And by the fourth track meet, I ended up in second place. I finished the track meet in second place because I went flat out from beginning to end, and I just gained the fuel tank to do it. You know, and unfortunately, that's where it kind of ended for me because that's when my father figure left, and I had to get a job and all that. But that lesson, he didn't leave before I picked up that lesson. You know, that if I just picture it, you know, it's gonna make sense what to do next. And
Yeah.
so I teach the clients to do the same exact thing. I tell them, you know, with everything, every exercise I do, I give them routines to follow each day. It's all about having them picture in their mind those results that they want to happen, the big picture of it, and just play in that. Be in your five senses, see it, smell it, hear it, touch it, all of that. Remember that so that, you know, as you're moving forward, that's what starts to unfold. And that's the fun part, you know, when it starts to unfold and you see the clues show up.
I love it. My last question is, how do we build up that muscle of faith and making hard choices as we let go of an addiction, or we leave a relationship or a negative work experience? How do we build that muscle so that when we do fail or we have maybe a relapse,
Mm-hmm.
the negative thoughts come to mind again?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
For you to do this, how can we continue to build that muscle and the faith up and keep moving forward?
The easiest way, well, I wouldn't say easy, but the simplest way that has helped every client I've worked with is you just need the right routine that supports you on that. And for me to build up the faith that I needed, I had to meditate every single morning. And it wasn't like typical meditation. I started with YouTube videos of different guided ones, and I would branch off into training ones from my mentor that he would give me. I would try all of these different frames of meditation. But the main thing was this: whatever you're going to struggle with, whether it's your addiction or anything that's stopping you, there's a way to build a routine that helps to solidify you because you fall. That's the biggest thing that I took as a benefit from the military is they taught you that you fall on your highest level of whatever you've been training. So when things go wrong, you're going to fall back on whatever you've been trained to do. And so relapses happen because you've been trained that when whatever becomes too much, whatever feeling you want, you can't find it, you're going to fall back to your addiction. So you build into your routine something that makes you feel good. And then you show up and you do that every day under the understanding that eventually the roller coaster is going to start heading downward. And when it does, your routine is such a strong habit, it feels unnatural to do it. And then you find some solace in that, you find some peace in that, and you realize it wasn't that bad after all, and you're able to get climbing right back up where you left off.
Yeah.
But all of my clients that follow the routine, that's what happens. They get on the horse again, they're able to move. And the ones that didn't establish one, they usually, yeah, they would fall victim to that again.
We're out of time, but Lewis Stockley, I gotta thank you for this today.
No
I
problem.
appreciated so much rich content and sharing and yeah, sharing your journey. I really appreciate you being here and saying yes. And I'm really happy to have met you. We're now
Same.
associated on Facebook too. Yeah, again, if people want to connect with you, you're on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube as
Yep.
Stockley, Stockley mindset,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. Just amazing. Thank you for this today.
No problem, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you too. And for those that listen to us and follow us, 26 minutes and the deeper dive is about a show that inspires us and really honors those who are leading, making an impact and creating positive change on the planet. If you like what you hear and what you're learning, let us know, right? I'm your host, David Cohen. Next week, I'm doing a little one-on-one with a new associate host that's going to be doing some of these, and we're going to have a little chinwag, her and I, about our vision for this and why we're into this and why we're spending a nice, then recording this on Friday, August 4th, why we're spending a beautiful sunny day, you know, doing a podcast interview. So you'll find out more about that next week. In the meantime, have a really good week, everybody, and we'll see you then.